All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to first and foremost welcome you all to the fifth Athlete to Athlete series powered by the Game Changers Foundation. And I want to start off by just first thanking our sponsor, Sports Turf. And we're going to talk a little bit more about them and also Rhythm Communications, who's behind the scenes helping us tonight. We got a very exciting show for you all, and we have some powerful panelists who are going to be sharing with you just about how to create that competitive edge through nutrition. So whether you're an athlete, whether you're a coach, whether you're an athletic director, whether you're a parent who's looking to really prepare your child to just perform and really establish that longevity. This is going to be a show that's packed with so much great information for you. But first, I just want to hear from you all. So for all those attendees out there, I want you to post just in the chat area, just your title, what school you're out of or position, and then what city you're tuning in from today. So go ahead and post in the chat area so we can acknowledge you. I really appreciate your time and you being on with us today. So share with us just your title, your school, and then what city you're tuning in from. And if you want to share your position, all that good stuff, just go ahead and share. Get in that chat box. Let us know when you're tuning in from, and yeah. All right, we got Crofton out of Montgomery. And Crofton, what do you do? Let us know your title. Head coach, okay. Crofton is the head coach out of West Hall. We got Lori Dickey from Waynesboro, Georgia. She coaches tennis at Burke County High School. Thank you so much for being on. Crofton's from Oakwood, Georgia. Okay, great. Got Jordan. Jordan, where you out of? Morgan, let us know where you're out of. Navon, I think you were on last week. We welcome everybody too who's tuning in from Facebook Live. Dr. Jennifer, sports psychologist, she's on again. She's one of our winners from last week. So welcome again, Dr. Gilder. So once again, my name is Rennie Curran. I'm a former professional athlete, played with the Bulldogs, the Tennessee Titans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Edmonton Eskimos and BC Lions. Now I serve as a full-time keynote speaker, author, and the CEO of Game Changer Coaching, where we help business leaders and athletes reach their fullest potential. And I have recently started the Game Changers Foundation, as most of you all know. It's been around for about a year and a half. And the reason why we started the Athlete to Athlete series is because, part of the Game Changers Foundation is to help current and former athletes in sports, business, and life. And we wanted to do that through community engagement, mentorship, and professional development. And one of the biggest ways in terms of community engagement was to have former athletes going to speak at schools. But we all know COVID is going on. So this is an alternative to where we can still reach a lot of athletes, ADs, coaches, parents, and get some former athletes on here, get some experts on here who can share about just some different topics that will help you as athletes or coaches or parents on and off the field. So that's why I'm excited to bring to you this series every week for the next 10 weeks. And we had our first corporate sponsor, which is Sports Turf, to come alongside with us and provide us with that sponsorship. And so one thing that we're going to be able to do and that we have been doing is we're giving away $500 every week to one high school. And then we also have a sponsorship from Jabra. So as you know, for those of y'all who've been on before, we're going to be giving away another pair of headphones for those of y'all who stay with us the entire time. We had one person who won a prize and they left early, but I was nice and I didn't give away their prize. So make sure you stay on the entire time so you have the chance to win. So first and foremost, beyond just the Athlete to Athlete series, I want to take the time to really thank the GSCA, Craig Davis. He's not on tonight, but I want to thank him for just his support. He's really just helped us a lot in terms of sending this out to all the coaches out there to make sure that they know about what's going on. And then also the team at Sports Turf, and Helen is on with us tonight, a representative from Sports Turf. So thank you so much, Helen, for being on. And for those of y'all who don't know, Sports Turf supplies so many different fields and tennis courts and a lot of just resources for high schools. And if you've been on the field, you've probably been on one of their fields. So Helen, thank you so much for joining. And if you want to share a couple words, please go ahead.
All right, thanks, Rennie. You know, when I heard about this program earlier this year and we met in Atlanta, yeah, I was excited about it, but I can tell you, despite COVID, and building about this program, and we're just super excited to support your foundation and what you're doing for the student athletes in the Atlanta metro area. We just couldn't be more thrilled to support your program. And it's been a tremendous lineup of coaches, mentors, and we're just here to help you spread, growing young athletes into them becoming useful citizens as they mature. So again, it's been great, and we'll be here every week for you. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. It really means a lot to have y'all support. We know how many companies out there are part of high school athletes, but not a lot of them give back in the way that you all have chosen to do. So I really, really appreciate it. And I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for support from companies like yourself that, show just tremendous care in terms of sponsoring, equipment and just different things like that. So I really appreciate you all partnering with me on this. I had no idea how this was going to turn out, but just something I'm extremely passionate about because of the many people who played a role in my life. So I just can't say thank you enough for your support, and I look forward to continuing to grow this.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so beyond sports turf, I always love to acknowledge just the organizations out there that have been doing this work for years, trying to impact the lives of high school athletes and coaches. Organizations like FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, NG3, that was started by my chaplain in high school, Matt Williams, Positive Athlete, which is another organization that was started by Heinz Ward. So thank you to all those organizations out there. Got to show you guys just that acknowledgement, pay that homage to you all for all the work that you continue to do. And we're just getting started in this, so I'm hoping to partner with all of you at some point. So that being said, let's get into the topic. So I wanted to touch on this topic of creating a competitive edge through nutrition, because I remember my high school days and just being 15, 16 years old, trying to get to 200 pounds and then trying to get to 210. And I was the type of guy who was eating chicken nuggets and just drinking and eating whatever. And of course, I was young at that time, so I got away with it. And I was able to still perform at a decent level. But if I would have known just the correct nutrition and the right supplements to take and the right foods to eat, I know I would, my performance would have gone to an even higher level. And so that's why I felt like it was so important to bring this topic of nutrition to this series, and to bring some powerful people from my network that could really share on it and give you guys some powerful principles and insights on this from their own experiences. So tonight we're going to give you some tips and tools to help you maintain a competitive edge and keep yourself and your team performing at a high level through nutrition. So to discuss this topic, like I said, I've called on some amazing leaders from my network, and I'm going to briefly introduce them and give them the platform to introduce themselves as well. So the first person that we have joining us tonight is Miss Jacqueline Sclaver. And I met Jacqueline actually while I was still chasing my career, still trying to get back in the NFL. I think it was around 2015 or something like that. And since then, she's impacted so many athletes through nutrition, helping them prepare for the draft, helping them to maintain their career, and other people as well. So Jacqueline is a nationally recognized, board certified and licensed functional medicine sports nutritionist. She's founded also Athletes Nutrition. Jacqueline was a competitive athlete herself for 20 years, so she fully understands the lifestyle and the demands of being an athlete. She's coached more than 350 elite level athletes in preparing them for the draft, off-season workouts, including 75 NFL players. So Jacqueline, thank you so much for being on tonight. How you doing? Tell us about yourself and about nutrition and all that.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I think you did a pretty good job of explaining a little bit about me. I work with everyone who's active through professional athletes and a lot of student athletes as well. It's what I do. I'm doing it 24/7. I feel like I'm working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., especially when I've got people out in the West Coast as well. And not just am I working, one-on-one with athletes, but I'm doing a lot of research in the science and understanding it and bringing, what's relevant and what's real to the practical application on the field, because you hear like nutrition is one of these things when you read all of this stuff or you hear things from your teammates or you hear things from a coach, and how much of it is really true, right? And so I really try to make sure I'm bringing home the right message to people and that it's true. I need to do that research to make sure, and how to practically apply what we're hearing from the science out in the field, because they'll come up with these ideas that, athletes need to eat this, and that every so often. I'm like, that's not going to work out. That's not going to work for real people. So how can I take what we need to do and actually make it happen, and teach people, I like to try to teach my athletes along the way. And I know that athletes are really busy and they don't necessarily have the time to stop and think and learn about nutrition, but the sooner you can do it, the better off you are. Especially if you're in high school and you have that edge before you get to college, or if you're trying to go pro before you go pro, then you have a competitive edge over your teammates, over your competition, because what goes into your body affects what's coming out of your body. And that's the bottom line. We can't forget about that,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. We got some great questions to ask you just to really understand even more about nutrition, and for those young athletes who are on here right now, just how they can set themselves apart. So look forward to hearing your insights. The next person I have the honor of welcoming onto the Athlete to Athlete series is actually one of my former teammates. And he's, I hate to say he went to that other school down the street, Georgia Tech, but he's like a brother to me, man. I'm honored to have him on. We've come a long way from since being drafted by the Tennessee Titans, and I'm excited to have him on tonight. Please disregard the noise in the background. That's my rice cooker. Didn't finish dinner, but Derek Morgan. Derek was ranked the number one player. Right? I'm good. I'm gonna give you the grand entrance. So Derek was ranked the number one player in Pennsylvania coming out of high school at defensive end. He studied business management at Georgia Tech and later received his MBA from the University of Miami. Being drafted into the NFL as a first-round draft pick in 2010 wasn't the end of his story. He played for the Tennessee Titans for 9 years prior to community building by launching the KNGDM Impact Fund to improve the conditions within communities. And he's done so much more. But, bro, I really, really appreciate you being on tonight, man. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy trying to take over the world, man. So welcome to the Athlete to Athlete series, bro.
Appreciate it. I'm busy trying to get through the nighttime routine with my kids. So if you hear a 5-year-old singing in the background, that's what's going on. So I appreciate you having me on. And I can say firsthand that, me and Rennie were roommates our rookie year coming in. So there were times in which I woke up to the smell of chicken wings and chicken nuggets in the hotel room and chomping at like 1 a.m. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Go to sleep. And so now I could definitely attest to that, but I'm glad to be here. Definitely have a pretty interesting journey as it relates to nutrition and really testimony as to how it can positively or negatively affect your performance on or off the field. And so glad to be here and looking forward to diving in.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, bro. Yeah, I remember those days like it was yesterday. I still remember the first time we walked downtown in Nashville. We just looked around as like, what do we get ourselves into? And then and then our first time, I don't know if you remember this, but our kind of like, for me, it was like that welcome to the NFL moment where we were both on the sidelines. I think it was like a preseason game or our first game or something like that. But a dude came running off the field, and we both stopped him. Like we were in the middle of a conversation. We both stopped him, and we looked up, and it was Donovan McNabb. And then we both stopped, and we like, that was Donovan McNabb.
Right.
I'll never forget that moment, man. So we had a lot of great experiences together, man. So it's great to be back reconnected. And the last guy I got joining us tonight, he actually is going to be checking off the Sports Center to join us. And because I don't know if you all heard, but Nick Saban got COVID, so he's covering that. But he's promised that as soon as he's done with that, he's going to be joining us. And that's UGA great David Pollack. And I'll go ahead and read his bio. And when he comes on, we're just going to jump him right into the conversation. But he's another defensive end who, through hard work and dedication, achieved one of the most decorated football careers at the University of Georgia. He was named to the 3 consecutive All-American teams and was twice selected SEC Player of the Year. He was drafted in the first round as well by the Cincinnati Bengals, and his NFL career was actually cut short due to injury, but he was able to successfully transition into a career in sports broadcasting. In 2011, he became part of the ESPN's popular College Game Day. So most of you all are familiar with David Pollack. He's going to be joining us at some point once he's done covering everything. And so we'll get going with the conversation in the way that we like to do it with the Athlete to Athlete series is we have a direct question for each panelist. And then after that, we'll have a question that is open for discussion that anybody can take on. And then, you know, you can add, whoever doesn't answer it first can add their knowledge and their insight to it as well. So for the first person, for Jacqueline, what are some of the biggest myths? You kind of touched on this a little bit before as you were, you know, giving some insights on yourself, but what are some of the biggest myths you see when it comes to athletes and their nutrition? We know there's so much misinformation out there. So what are some of the biggest myths and what are some of the things that you do to help your athlete clients?
Sure. So I would say one of the biggest myths is that sports drinks are for hydration. And the problem is, and probably most people don't realize this, but sports drinks don't have enough sodium or electrolytes to properly hydrate you. So if you think of one of the popular sports drinks out there, it has maybe like 40 carbs and 220 milligrams of sodium. You need about 10 of them, maybe 20, depending on your size, to have proper hydration throughout the day. So then you're just loaded up on all this art, you know, all this sugar and food coloring. And so people don't realize that that's not the proper way to hydrate, you know, so these sports drinks are one of the biggest myths out there. There's so many better products. And I think another thing is like eating late at night, you know, eating late at night will make you gain weight. And, you know, is there some truth to the way our body metabolizes carbs at night? For regular people that are sitting around all day, sure. But for athletes, we have to refuel around the clock. And if you're training at night, you need to replace that fuel at night. You know, so for athletes, eating at night is not going to make you gain weight. I think that's another one. And then another one is that, you know, gaining weight is going to make you slower. And I hear this all the time, and it depends on your weight. You know, you want to put on muscle, and muscle is going to make you faster. So, you know, gaining, whether it be 10 pounds of muscle or 5 pounds of muscle, that's not going to slow you down. And people have that in their head that, oh, I don't want to gain any weight. I'm not going to be able to run as fast. So I think that's another big rumor. I think those are like my top 3. There's some supplement things that float around as well, but those would probably be my top 3. Okay. Do you have any that you can think of?
No, definitely the sports drink one was one for me. Just like I used to kill that Gatorade and Powerade, anything I could get my hands on. And then, you know, thinking too at a certain point in my career, because I was labeled undersized, so I tried to put on the weight, but then in my head, I'm like, oh man, if I'm too heavy, then that's going to slow me down and make me dysfunctional. So yeah, I definitely went through a lot of those things. I know for the other athletes on here, they can definitely identify. So yeah, that's a lot of great insights shared. And I want to welcome my man, Pollack. Man, I really appreciate you being on tonight, bro. I already read your bio and all that stuff. So man, just tell us a little bit about you and just, you know, just what's going on, man.
I guess you read the bio, so you read the lies. But no, thanks for having me on. A lot of respect for Rennie, the person he is, the player he was, the character he has. But I think diet's a huge part. And if you want to perform well, eating right, and I didn't hear the whole study, the lady that was just talking, I didn't get to hear it all. But what I heard, I loved what I was hearing. And I went through the same phase. I remember when I stayed for my senior year, when I decided to stay, I was projected to be a first-round pick to leave after my junior year. And I was like, what's your edge, dude? Where are you going to get better? Like, where are you going to improve? And I took some diet and nutrition course, and I was like, bro, I got this twisted. Like, I was like, whoa. So wait a minute. I can't go to a NOCO and have triple fried rice and double steak and double chicken. I didn't know. I mean, I was an athlete, and I figured, dude, I can crush. Right. And there was no consequences. And then I started to learn, man, about fueling your body and the right type of carbs and when to eat carbs. And one thing I'll say, too, is not everybody's body's the same either. Not every body type, you know, like I could tell you all not to eat a bunch of carbs. And like my personal body, I'm a thicker person, but if I eat carbohydrates like a normal human being, I will get to 250 in 3 weeks. I'm like 235. Like I can get there quick. So you have to watch how your body responds to certain things, because not everybody's body's made the same. But once I started taking nutrition courses and I started to learn about, like y'all said, Powerade, I started to learn about sugars and what they did. And the grocery store, by the way, if you want to shop at the grocery store, like, you kind of stay near the edges, bro. You get the fruits, you get the veggies, you get the produce. You don't really start going towards the middle of the aisles, and you get towards the snack and the stuff you probably don't need to be eating a lot of. But one thing I'll say about this, if you do want to make a change, and that's something that's important to you, that stuff ain't going to happen overnight. It will not. Like, just like if you have personal convictions and you try to make a change, and I'm not going to curse anymore. Well, if you've been cursing for a long time, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. And it takes a while to learn about, trust me, I got all the code words like mother sucker and son of a gun. And I mean, I got all of them. Like, I got plenty of them that you can use, but it's just like that. You're going to mess up. And you got to understand, I'm going to be as good as I can, stay on the straight and narrow. When I veer off, most of the time what we do is, dang, I'm done. Like, crap, I'm going back to eating the way I used to eat. No, like, it's just like with your faith and your walk with God. Like, you walk on the straight and narrow, you mess up, you don't go crazy. You get back on the straight and narrow, and you try to be good again as long as you can. It's the same thing with your diet. It's the same thing with nutrition. But if you want to be an elite athlete, and if you want to maximize everything you have, what you put in your body's a car. Like, you want to put the gas in your body that's going to give you the best chance to succeed. So I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to diet and nutrition, is things to think about. Like, don't ever come out of a workout after you just busted your butt and not put tons of protein in your body. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you just tore down all that muscle. You just worked that yourself so hard. Now put something in there to help you. I didn't say go eat Slim Jims. I didn't say go eat Starburst and Skittles and crap like that, because that has no nutritional value. Sugar has no nutritional value whatsoever in your life. It does absolutely nothing for you. So, those are a few things to me that, going from good to great to elite, like, find your difference maker, find your thing that's going to take you to that next level. A lot of it's going to be weight room. Then, okay, well, everybody's in the weight room now. Well, can it be flexibility? Like, can I start stretching more than everybody else? Okay. Well, can I start eating better than everybody else? Because it is not easy to do it, because food tastes good. People want to drink alcohol. Alcohol's poison. There ain't nothing good about alcohol. There's no nutritional benefit to alcohol. You literally are poisoning your body, like creating more inflammation in your body. I haven't touched a sip of alcohol since I was 15 years old. Like, I shouldn't have touched it when I was 15, but that's another topic for another day. But I think all of those things about taking your game to the next level, wanting to be great and be special and be different, all those things are encompassed.
Yeah, I love it, man. You just shared so much knowledge. And I definitely am going to come back to you with another follow-up question to everything you shared. But yeah, it was powerful what you said about, especially the fact that it's going to take time. It takes that discipline to go from good to great. I think that's what a lot of us athletes don't understand when it comes to our nutrition. That it has to be an everyday thing. It has to become part of who we are, especially when we're young. Like, we just, really kind of don't, it's one of those things you don't even really think about until you have to. Which brings me to my question for Derek, man. When did you begin to understand the importance of nutrition and decide to make that true change? And what differences did you notice once you did make that change in your performance?
So I was on the same trajectory as you, Rennie. I was eating pizza and chicken fingers, and I had that college diet. And luckily for me, my wife, who I met when I was a rookie in the league, she's a chef. And so when she came into my pantry, she's seen the Cinnamon Toast Crunch and the high fructose corn syrup in my juice and chicken nuggets in the freezer. I was still living that college life. Like you open up the refrigerator, you see nothing but junk. And so really, man, I got to give credit where credit's due. And she really started to change my perception on food and how that affects your body. And the other thing that kind of coincided with that was I tore my ACL my rookie year. And so I was on the sideline for, my rookie year for, 10, 12 months. And I had to really be intentional about, taking care of my body. And so a big part of that was my nutrition. And so I came into the NFL, just eating crazy, eating whatever I seen. And my weight started to shoot up. So I was like almost, coming out of Georgia Tech, I was probably 270-ish. And then like my end of my rookie year, I was like pushing 280. And I'm like, yo, there's no way I can sustain this and play at a high level. And so, as y'all know, on the call, it's like every pound that you're over for a weigh-in, it's like $500, $600, $700 fine. And so I wasn't aware of that, coming in. I'm like, yo, I got to get my weight in line. And so really from just my wife, the injury, understanding how serious, like 3-4 pounds, like how much of an effect that could have on like your explosion, your speed, like your strength, your power, all these different components, like, and it's that like fine of a level, especially at the professional level. Like if you lose, 1-2% in your power or your explosion or your speed, that's the difference between winning and losing a rep, which could be the difference between winning and losing a game. So it's that, it's that critical. And so when I did start to kind of be more intentional about the things in which I put in my body, it was like, okay, high quality, meats, high quality carbs, like dense, like fibers, and like just kind of getting all your macros in at a high quality. And then like year 5, year 6, I started to like transition off of red meat. I started eating less processed sugars and carbs, and really like looking into ways to cut down my inflammation, because the biggest reactive, there's something called C-reactive protein, and it's an indicator of your inflammation levels in your body. So, if you eat like highly processed foods and like, GMO meats and antibiotics in your meats, like your body has an inflammatory response. And so I was looking at ways to cut down on my recovery time. So you play a game on Sunday, you're in a car wreck, you got to come back the next Sunday at your highest level. So any way you could cut down on that recovery time was very critical. So I started looking into plant-based diets, and, actually found a lot of good research to support my transition to, more of a plant-based diet that cut out, all meat, all dairy. And I noticed a big change in really the way my body was, my body composition. I started losing body fat, more energy, more clear-headed. And that just seemed to work well with my body. And I've been vegan for 3.5 years now. And so, it's been a process and a transition, but I've definitely noticed the results.
Wow, that's powerful, man. You said so many great things, and one of the things that stuck out to me when you were talking about your journey is having that support system. Because for most of us athletes, well, we don't. If mom doesn't cook those home cooked meals, she gets home late, and all we can afford is the fast food and whatnot. Like that's almost near impossible, man. I got another follow-up question from that, but having a support system is huge. And then another thing you said that stuck out to me was the higher you get in terms of your career, the higher you climb, the more costly it gets, whether that's getting fined for being overweight or your body just stops recovering as fast. And for those young athletes who are on here now, I'm telling you, you can get away with it when you're young, eating the snacks and eating, whatever you want to get. But when you start to hit 25, 26, that's when all those years of bad eating and bad habits, whether you're doing drugs and all those things, it starts to catch up with you. So, you definitely touched on that, man, just the inflammation and all that. I had the worst tendonitis when I played, so I remember it all too well. So yeah, thank you for everything you shared, man. And Pollack, going back to you touched on this a little bit, man. But how did nutrition play a role in your career, and what are some of the things that you did once you learned to separate yourself?
I started eating better. It was crazy because my junior year, after the bowl game, right before I decided to stay, I was 290, right at 292. And that's when I decided to make a change. And literally for spring ball, when the scouts came in, I put a 10-pound weight in both thigh girdles to get to 265 because,
Wow.
I mean, I'm very black and white. Like if I don't need it, I ain't gonna touch it. And so I started to go kind of crazy. And I think that's important for everybody to realize, like, it's okay to have a healthy balance. Like you don't have to be Mr. Psychotic all the time. It's okay to reward yourself. Like if you do really well all week and you want to reward yourself with a meal, not like a weekend, by the way, you don't get a weekend, but if you want to reward yourself with a meal or something that you really love, if that's what motivates you to continue to work hard, and if that's what keeps you looking forward to that, that's okay. But to me, it was the cutting out, like Derek said, cutting out the processed food. It was cutting out the sugars. It was cutting. By the way, don't drink calories. Like, we don't need to drink calories. It's just an absolute waste. If you're gonna drink water. You know, drink that kind of stuff. Don't waste your calories on the intake of fruit juice. Like, everybody thinks fruit juice is probably good for you. It ain't that good for you. You don't need it.
I love fruit juice, man. You hurt me right now.
Yeah, I hear you, but eat your fruit. I mean, because fruit juice, most of the time, a lot of times, it's not even 100% juice, and it's got added sugar to it. So I think you can cut out little things, you know, like that. But like, yeah, you have to have carbs to perform. Your brain needs carbs, but it doesn't say your brain needs Lucky Charms, right? So you can find good pastas. You can find, I mean, I love squash pasta. If you like the different kind of ways you can get all kinds of different pasta noodles nowadays too, that doesn't have to be, you know, full of carbs that you don't want to intake. So I think finding substitutes is really important. Starting to minimize as you go along, because I'll be honest, I used to love me some Popeyes biscuits, and 290 on the scale, by the way, it showed it, okay? But I used to go through and get 6 back in the day, like, and crush them. 6. It's like, that's 7 days worth of calories, bro. And it's good too. But, and then I went through and I would get, you know, I'd get 2. And then I went through and I got 1. And I'll never forget the day I went through and I took a bite and I threw it out the window. Like, and I said, I don't need it. It was a powerful day for me. I hadn't had a sweet in 10 to 15 years. Like, and you finally get to the point where you don't crave it. You know, a trick I use when I'm out to eat at a meal, they give you way too much when it comes to portion control. Like, it's outrageous. Your plate's enormous. Well, one thing I'll do is I'll literally start to eat when I start to get that full feeling. I'll take the salt and I'll dump it all over it and just ruin it. Like, just ruin the heck out of it. Because otherwise, we're gonna sit there and we're gonna sit there. We're gonna talk. Like, listen, another way you could do this more fiscally responsible would be to box it up and take it home. But I know, Pollack knows myself, and I know if I take it home, I'm gonna eat it. Like, I know I'm gonna eat it there if we sit there and talk. So I just ruin it. Like, I just ruin it so I won't eat it. So, you know, knowing yourself, knowing where you're weak, knowing where you're vulnerable is a really important process with food and along your journey, because you got to know, it's just like anything else. You got to know certain situations not to put yourself in them. And, you know, raising kids now, like I have kids that are 12 and 10. The earlier you start these habits, the easier it is for them. Like, the earlier you start making these little bitty changes, those little changes start adding up down the road. And we go from those little changes to making enormous changes in your life that that started by just saying, hey, I'm not gonna drink soft drinks. And I actually remember, Rennie, the last time I had a soft drink, and this is the last thing I'll share, and I'll shut up. I was in 8th grade, and it was the World Cup. It was when Brandi Chastain won, and the women won gold, and she rips her shirt off and goes crazy and bananas. I remember watching I remember watching a game, and during that game, the girls, they said none of the girls drink carbonation while they're training because it hurts their conditioning. So I'm 15. I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm 15 years old. I wanted to play in the NFL. From the time I was 6 years old, I told my parents I'm going to play in the NFL. And a side note for another day, don't ever let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. God can do amazing things beyond anybody's belief. I got laughed at like crazy. I guarantee you, Rennie got laughed at like crazy with our goals and with our dreams. Don't let people define your goals and dreams. But I'll never forget, I was sitting there listening to that, and I go, you know what? I ain't drinking that crap no more. I grew up drinking that. It's cheap. We didn't have a lot of money. It was all in the house. I used to crush it. I've never touched a carbonated beverage again in my life. I was 15 years old. Like, I made a choice right there, because in life, you're going to have to give up what you want for what you want right now. So I hope that makes sense. If it's something you want long-term, your goal, your dream, I'm going to get that. You got to give up what you want right now. You got to give up those cravings for whatever it is. I don't want to go work out today. I want to play Fortnite. Bull crap. Get off your butt and go work out. Like, go condition. Go do your stuff. If you don't, then obviously your chances of making your dreams and what you really want come true are slim to none later on down the road.
Yeah, I love it, bro. Everything you shared is nothing but facts, man. Some of the things you shared that stuck out to me was just finding those substitutes and making those gradual steps towards change. I mean, it's we all know it's not easy. It's always going to be easier to do the thing that's not the best for you, or eat that thing that may taste good in the moment. So start by just finding the substitutes. Make that choice, like you said, man. Make the tough decisions now so you can achieve your goals and achieve the things that you want in your future. And then, like you said, the discipline. It's always going to be tough, but there's a way to do it, man. If you're determined, and if you don't allow anybody to stop you from reaching your goals, man. So thank you for sharing that, man. And Jacqueline, this is for you because we need to hear more from the expert nutritionist. So what are some essential supplements? It can be supplements, nutrients, or foods that you would recommend to young athletes who are looking to improve and maintain their performance. And after she shares, anybody else can add in just any insights they have with that.
Sure. I mean, of course, being a nutritionist, it's food first, right? So we really want to look to our foods to get in our nutrients, of course. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the guys have mentioned it, having a high protein diet, because that's going to be your building block of your muscles. And if you do have any injuries all of your repair, all of your cells need protein. And so if anyone doesn't know, just a quick review, like your proteins are going to be like your meats, your fishes, dairy, eggs. And if you're plant-based, then it's going to be like your tofu, or if you combine certain plant-based like beans and rice. And so I think it's really important that we do that first. And then also our micronutrients, right? So those are our things that are our vitamins and minerals that we're getting in. And so, a lot of these guys mentioned inflammation. And I know for younger people, they're like, what do you mean inflammation? Like, I don't have inflammation, but we really do. And especially as athletes, like, especially if they're at game or training, like we are inflamed 24/7. And our diet, an anti-inflammatory diet, can really affect our recovery time. So it's something to start thinking about at a younger age. And that means, unfortunately, no fried food. That means no Chick-fil-A, and the sugars and candies and junk food. Now, am I saying that you can never have it? No. I mean, of course, if you I have athletes they love Snickers. Okay, so you can have a Snickers on Saturday night, sure. There's air fryers now, which is a great substitution. I mean, some of the things that are being made nowadays that weren't around when I was younger, you can bake wings instead of frying them. So there's alternatives. Food can still be great and you can love it. And no one's expecting young people to completely, change things. But of course, in my head, like he said, for soda, there's no room for that, and I opened up by talking about the sports drinks, which to me are just like a soda, with a little bit of extra sodium. But if you want to talk about supplements really quickly, a couple things I really recommend for everyone is creatine, because that's one of the most studied supplements, and it helps with power output, it helps with muscle development, but it also helps with cognitive function. And especially if people are plant-based, we see studies that show that creatine helps with memory, and also it's neuroprotective. So if you're a contact sport athlete, it can help with brain function. So creatine is one of my favorites. And then, fish oils, if you're not eating a diet that's higher in fish, because that helps lower inflammation. And collagen peptides, which helps with soft tissue. It helps with skin, hair, and nails, but it really helps that soft tissue and that repair, because there's 3 stages of repair after an injury. And so those are kind of like my 3 go-to for everyone. As far as supplements are concerned. But I think, it's always good to get yourself either a plant-based protein or a whey protein that you have in the house that you can have as well. If you're kind of in a rush or just need to make a protein shake at night, things like that. But those are kind of like my good old standbys for things.
No, that's all great information. I mean, the air fryers, like you said, great substitute. Creatine, that was one of the supplements that I didn't really know about growing up, but took it just because it was there, and didn't really know all the benefits that were there. Fish oils, collagen. Like, I wish I would have started taking collagen a lot earlier, because my joints were all messed up by the time I was like 26, 27, just from all the weightlifting and just all the pounding and all those things. So does anybody else have anything they want to add?
You also mentioned that you ate a bad diet. You ate inflammatory diet. You ate junk. So would your joints not have felt that way if you didn't have that inflammation going on? Because, you kind of said something a lot of guys say, where it's like, oh, well, I've gotten this far without it. I've gotten this contract. I'm a Pro Bowl or whatever. And it's like, well, how much better would you be if you didn't? And that competitive edge is that this is like your tool, this is your secret weapon. Nutrition is your secret weapon. So I think it's important to note that because you didn't eat well, it could be part of why your joints hurt.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dave, you got anything you want to add, just from a supplement or nutrient standpoint?
Yeah, creatine was a big one, really, for the neuroprotective qualities and the cognitive properties. I didn't realize that until I started doing some research in it. Same thing, Rennie. I took it just because But yeah, like the omega-3s, you know, I take those, obviously a vegan version of them, but they got all types of versions on Amazon or wherever. I also take tyrosine. It's like it's an amino acid, and it has a lot of cognitive. I'm more like, you know, trying to solve problems like from an intellectual standpoint. So I'm like trying to always look for brain enhancements. So like caffeine, 200 milligrams of caffeine, you know, whether that's in an energy drink, which is, you know, that's another topic, or coffee or whatnot. From the neural, you know, the cognitive abilities, like that for me is a big thing. And then I take curcumin, is for me one of the biggest, you know, anti-inflammatory supplements that can really help you. It's a derivative of turmeric, so it's a natural supplement that works well with your body. And I use CBD oil, so I use Charlotte's Web CBD oil, great for inflammation. Is also a neuroprotectant. Does well for relief of anxiety. And just overall just relaxes you. And it has so many different, you know, properties that are healing, and they're very complementary to your system. We have an endocannabinoid system in the human body, and if you get full spectrum CBD oil, it meshes very well with that system. So there has a lot of different healing benefits to it. So those are a couple that I take pretty consistently.
Love it, man. A lot of good stuff that I'm definitely gonna be checking it out, because shoot, I need some of that for sure. The
One more
tyrosine
thing.
and yeah.
ZMA is a great nighttime supplement to help you get into more deeper sleep. ZMA, and then
Amen.
magnesium spray on the bottom of your feet. It's a
Wow.
really good concoction to kind of get you in very deep cycles of sleep.
Wow. Nah, I need that. I'm gonna hit you up again, man. See, that's why it's good to bring a tech guy on, man. You know that stuff.
Just hit me up, man.
Oh yeah, man. I got it. And yeah, I appreciate all that information. I hope, you know, all you athletes on here really listening and taking this into account, because like we said, you can get away with a lot of this stuff, not taking your supplements, not eating right when you're younger. But as you get older, things are going to change in a heartbeat, especially as you get to that top level, and you'll only be able to sustain yourself for so long. I want to open it up for questions from the audience. You know, so at this moment, if anybody has a question that they want to ask, that as it pertains to nutrition, or just how to set yourself apart and create that competitive edge, feel free to leave it in the chat box. And as folks are typing their questions, another one I want to ask, this is for the parents, and just advice that you all have. So we all know that these nutrition habits start at home, and Pollack kind of touched on it briefly. I think he had to check out. But what advice would you give the parents when it comes to helping their children establish the right habits, even those who may not really have a lot of time to make those home cooked meals, or have the money in a lot of cases?
Is that just a general question?
Yeah, just any piece of advice you give the parents.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing I always tell people is like to get a Sam's Club or a Costco membership, because you're buying in bulk and you're going to save so much money over going to the store all the time, you know, and just find these really easy things to make, like a crock pot, like an Instapot, you know, making big bulk amounts of food. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It really doesn't. You know, you can throw a bunch of flavor in there and make it really easily. It doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be fancy. But I always suggest buying in bulk, especially if you have athletes, because I mean, I'm just one single person. I have to buy in bulk just to save money. You know, I really look at the dollar I almost look at like the dollar per ounce of protein I'm paying for things, you know? So that's kind of my big thing, is like, and do it twice a week. You know, no one's going to go in the kitchen every day and cook. No one has the time for that. So if you allot that time on Sunday and Wednesday to get it done, it's going to be so much easier, you know?
Gotcha.
We asked about intermittent fasting. Do you want me to address that?
Yeah, Derek, did you have anything on just advice for parents?
No, I think that's great advice. I think having a plan and sticking to it is very critical. But let's get through as many questions as we can.
For sure. So intermittent.
Yeah. So the thing with intermittent fasting is that it's really bad for athletes, because we need to be fueled, right? Intermittent fasting means like you're not fueling your body. So I really feel there's no room for intermittent fasting with athletes, because there's no need to fast. You need to be fueling. Fasting is the last thing that you need to be doing. Now, I did a whole post on this. So there's some rumors out there that like fasting helps growth hormone and growth hormone helps muscle, but it actually doesn't in the long run because it suppresses what's called IGF-1, and IGF-1 is needed to build muscle. So there really is no benefit for athletes to intermittent fast at all. You don't want to go into a workout fasted, and you don't want to come out of a workout and not eat. So I feel like there's really no room for intermittent fasting when it comes to athletes. I don't know if Derek has any input on that.
So I would disagree with that to some extent. I have read some research on working out fasted and doing cardio fasted. Your growth hormone is increased. And I would agree it's not a sustainable thing that you always want to be, fasting and you want to be fueling your body. Absolutely. There are benefits though, in terms of cellular regeneration that can occur. That's more like on longer duration fast, but there are some benefits to intermittent fasting as well. And there is this thing where if you're condensing the amount of like your food intake window, so let's just say, on a normal day, you'll eat at 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. So that whole day, your body's using energy to break down your food and to, you kind of just go through that whole digestive process. And that takes a lot of energy, which is, it's normal. But there are some benefits to shrinking down the window in which you do eat. So obviously, if you work out in the morning, obviously fuel your body. But let's just say you take, from 10 a.m. to, and maybe you skip lunch. That gives your body the ability to reallocate that energy for digestion to something else. So maybe it's going towards repairing your muscles, or maybe it's fueling your brain. And so like, there's other ways to reallocate that energy that you have that may be used for digestion. Because I think that I believe I intermittent fast. I'm not playing no more, but I strongly believe in the cognitive effects as well of intermittent fasting and longer duration fast. I think there's a lot of benefits there.
I think for general population, there could be some benefit to it, but I think for athletes, it's hard. And I'd mentioned that, so yes, it can increase your growth hormone, but it suppresses IGF-1. So it's not going, like there's studies to show it does not build muscle because it suppresses IGF-1. And without that, then we're not building muscle. I think the most important thing for athletes, especially if they're working out multiple times a day, is that they're getting their fuel in for their recovery. For other people, then yeah, there could be some applications for intermittent fasting. But I wouldn't want to tell people like skip your lunch so that your body can do a different metabolic process and stop digestion for a few hours so that it goes to your brain.
Well, you reallocate your energy. So a big part of why I went to a plant-based diet was really was for saving the energy that was allocated towards digestion. Everybody has had that feeling where you eat a big lunch and you just kind of get very lethargic, right? And everybody's experienced that. And so for us as athletes, to be able to cleanly and like efficiently cycle through that food and process that food and regenerate it into energy, that helps us. That helps us to, create more energy to repair your body and to go through different metabolic processes. So, I do think, there's enough information out there that you can make a case for, any type of perspective you want to. I'm not going to go, head to head with a nutritionist because I'm not as informed as what you do. But I will say that there is research that does coincide with that, that it does benefit it, but there is research that does exactly the opposite. But I don't want to harp on it too much. I want to get through some other questions.
We're going to have to set up another
yeah, we can do another one just on
to cover that. How does
pre and post workout foods? I think that that's a good one. Pre and post workout food. So I think that especially for younger kids, if you want to have you want to have a combination of both carb and a protein, but some like the Nature Valley protein bars are really good for them. The little juicy packets that have like the fruit and vegetables in them, or the applesauce or something like that, to kind of keep them in their gym bag or in the car. Hard-boiled eggs are great. Jerky, if they can't have something that's like, if they don't have, or yogurt, depends if they can have stuff that's hot or cold, or if it has to be, not refrigerated. So it's good to always kind of keep like snack bars and like little snacks, apples, post-workout oranges are great, chocolate milk, things like that. So it's good to have peanut butter, even like a peanut butter and jelly, something like that to have before your workout. Just go into the workout with fuel in you rather than not having it. And I think for the younger kids, you know, they don't have to have as much protein as the older kids, so they can get away with something that's, even if it's like a cheese and crackers or something like that. String cheese is another great one to keep around. Pretzels, stuff like that.
Love it. And then my man Navon, he asked the questions, stretching in general every day have any benefits? I am definitely one for stretching as much as possible, maintaining that range of motion, you know, making sure that you know, I just believe it has so many benefits from just protecting you from injury from that standpoint. And, you know, because you have that increased range of motion. So if you guys want to add anything on that, feel free to share.
Yeah, I would say functional and controlled range of motion. So you don't want to just sit there and stretch out your hamstring, you know, for an hour. You want to be able to stretch it, get the range of motion, but then control your range of motion. So you don't want to, you know, be able to put your leg up behind your head, not have no control or strengthen that position, because that will lead to an injury. So definitely flexibility and range of motion, but being able to then lock in that range of motion with some strength and control is, I think, it has to go hand in hand with your flexibility.
Love it.
I'm
Best
not
hydration source.
That's not my area. You know.
Yeah, use quiet. Best hydration sources.
So, you know, there's some natural hydration sources. Of course, we need water, but we need to pull the water into the cell, and that's where we get the electrolytes come into play. You know, a lot of people like coconut water, but that's just potassium. So you can put some salt into your coconut water. And then you can also, I like that liquid IV that's out in the market. You know, that's kind of the best bang for your buck, even price-wise. That has about 550 milligrams of sodium in each packet. And then there's some other products out there too. What's the other one? Precision Hydration, and there's another one that people use. But I like the liquid IV. You can get them at Costco. So, you know, you do get the most bang for your buck with them. And just throwing that in your water. And just think about, you need at least half of your body weight in ounces of water a day, plus 8 ounces for every half hour you exercise. So, you know, if you're somebody who's 250 pounds, you need to at least be getting in a gallon of water a day. And while I'm here, I need to remind you not to drink out of plastic bottles. So invest in a metal container. And because there's going to be times where you can't control plastic bottles. People are going to hand them to you on the field. They're going to hand them to you here and there. And of course, you're going to drink them. But if you can control, when you can control what you're drinking out of, you don't want plastic bottles, because the plastic in the bottle does leach into the water, and it's a hormone disruptor. It's an endocrine disruptor. And there's just so much of it going around. So when you can control where your water source is coming from, get yourself a Hydro Flask or a similar container. That's my little spiel on hydration.
All right, guys. Well, we're unless you got anything else you want to share there.
Nah, we're good, man. I think hydration is key. Is like you said, half your body weight in ounces is critical. It's hard to do, but once you drink more and more, you start to train your gut to hold more water, and it becomes, you know, more of a habit than anything. So.
Okay, man. And then we got one last question. I can't leave Amy hanging. How does timing of the day of your meals impact your overall health and nutrition? 3 meals a day.
So for athletes, it's important because you be fueled, right, to go in, and you need to refuel after. And your body's the most sensitive, meaning it utilizes those carbs the best after your workout. And if you're having 2-a-days, right, it's really important they're having a carb-heavy meal in between those workouts, and something that's easily digested, because if you only have an hour between one practice and the next, or a position drill and then a strength and conditioning, you know, you need to get that fuel back in as quickly as possible. So it's important then to really have those meals, you know, and also, like I said, for me, it depends on what time of day you're training and how often. And, you know, and then also, you know, are you one of those people that's hungry around the clock? I don't want my guys going to bed hungry, but we also know that eating 2 hours close to sleep can disrupt your sleep, and sleep is the master of all. You know, sleep is the most important. So we don't want you to be trying to digest while you're sleeping as well. So I think it's a little individualized, but there are some broad, you know, recommendations that we do.
Yeah. Well, great, man. I appreciate you all answering the questions and the questions from the attendees. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up just because of time. So thank you so much for just the information that you shared. I definitely know that you all are going to get some messages after this, just from people who are looking to learn more. And Jacqueline, one person suggested that for you to, Jamal, for you to put together a list of best practices as it pertains to supplements and vitamins. So definitely think that will get you some good leads and some good people to work with. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So final words from our panelists. Love to get that from you all, and then how the audience can get in touch with you as well. So we'll start with you, Jackie.
Sure. I am on Instagram. It's Athletes Nutrition, like my shirt, ATHLEATS. I try to put a lot of good information on there. And I go into a lot of detail on things, and I'm also similar to like the suggestion, open to suggestions on things to post about if you have questions. So I think that's probably the best way to, find me and ask me questions, DM me if you have specific things. Yeah, so thanks for having me on.
Awesome. All right, D. Moore, final thoughts and how others can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah.
Off some cobwebs of my days. Very much in tune with my body in that process. But I appreciate the conversation, Jacqueline, and all the information that you provided. My IG is dmorg91. That's across all social media channels. And yeah, I'm sure that if you need anything, whether you need a supplement or some advice, just shoot me a comment, DM. I'll try my best to get back to you. Appreciate you having me on, Rennie.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. I want to say thank you all so much for your time. I know both of you all are extremely busy, doing a lot. And Pollack, he's already back on it. He's covering, Nick Saban, and I think PK Subban, the hockey player, got COVID too or something like that. So he's had to check out early, but I'm sure he would have a lot of great things to say as well. You guys know where to find him. He's on ESPN, College Game Day, and on social media. But you guys did an amazing job just sharing your past experiences and just giving so many amazing insights, which is what this is all about. I wouldn't be where I'm at today. You all wouldn't be where you're at today without mentorship and people pouring into you who had already been through and been to where you wanted to go. So I want to just tell you all thank you. And we're going to get our winners for tonight in just a second. We got the $500 giveaway and we got the headphones. So I'm waiting on my co-host to shoot me the names of the winners for the night. So our $500 winner for the Athlete to Athlete series tonight is going to go to Mr. Crofton, the head coach out of West Hall. So Crofton Montgomery, you're our winner for the night. You're going to be receiving a $500 check to help, that can go towards pregame meals, that can go towards college visits during the off season, whatever you guys need support with, man. Congratulations on that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And then our next winner for the headphones is Jalen Webb. So Jalen, our guard from Elbert County, you're gonna have some headphones coming so you can jam out before your games, man. So congratulations. Thanks for taking the time to join us tonight. And once again, my name is Rennie Curran, and I'm a former professional athlete, keynote speaker, author, and the CEO of Game Changer Coaching, also the founder of the Game Changers Foundation. I want to tell you all, thank you so much for joining us for another week of the Athlete to Athlete series. We're going to be back again next week, same time, with a new topic and new panelists that are going to give you some great insights. So make sure you share this, with your coach, share this with your teammates, share this with your parents. This is all about empowering the next generation, all about, helping those who are going to be our future leaders. So, yeah, thank you again. God bless and go Dogs.